Hello and welcome to this episode of Microchips, and on the bench today we have a Midland 200M 40 channel AM radio from back in the early 80s that has a power issue, so we're going to have a look at that. But before we start, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, join Facebook, join Patreon, buy me a coffee, have a look at my website microchips.net. And let's get started. So, the customer has said that they had a small accident with this radio and the on and off no longer works. And sure enough, there is no click on the on and off. So we're going to have a look at that. Here's a quick look at the rear plate. So 200M 77-200 from February of 1980, and the radio is in really good condition. So I took the lid off and I was absolutely surprised to find a Uniden board in there when I was expecting the standard Midland board that you normally find in Midland AM sets. There it was, a nice Uniden board with the standard CPT PLL, and looking at the speaker, you don't find them like that anymore. So there's the PLL TC9106. So yeah, I was really surprised to find a Midland board in this. I was also surprised to see all the normal 10 volt capacitors that like to fail. So I wonder if any of those have gone down as well. I was looking at this one and it seems to be a little bit crusty. So I don't know what's going on there. Has it leaked or has it just got some glue goop all over it? And underneath the board we can see a Uniden logo etched into the copper. Very nice. So I suppose we should have a look at the volume control. So I took the volume knob off, just trying to assess how to take it out. And it looks like we have metal front behind the plastic. So I think we will have to lift off the plastic front, just so we don't damage the plastic. So we've got the plastic front off, and we will undo the nut holding the volume control. Just like that. And we will gently try and get the volume control out of the radio without breaking any of its wires. So we'll have to forfeit a cable tie to allow us to gain access to this. And it will come out by the looks of it. Now looking at this pot, it's a pot I've not seen before. It's got a switch and two actual variables on it. So it won't just be as simple as going getting one from my parts box and replacing it, because I don't think I've got any with a dual pot on it. So we're going to have to try and repair it. Shaft seemed a little bit loose, but nothing too bad. So I suppose we should have a look at the actual switch assembly underneath to see whether this is the damaged part. I'm gently taking it apart so we don't lose any parts that are in there. So it looks like there's 3 parts inside there. We've got the actual part that makes the contact, a spring, and the plastic part that actually responds to the movement when you turn the control. And that all seems to be good. Now looking into the back of the the control, I think we see our problem. There it is. This piece of plastic is flapping about in the breeze. So it looks like we're going to have to go a layer deeper into this switch to see if we can correct that. So again, we will bend back some more of the metal lugs so we can get access to this part of the control and see if there's any damage in there, or see what type of damage we have and see whether we can actually fix it. So taking it apart, there it is, and the part that was flapping about in the breeze has already dropped out, and there it is, and you can actually see there's a split in the nylon. Whether that happened due to the accident or just because of age, but it looks like it just sits on the back. So first we'll reassemble the main switch assembly, and as you can see that works as intended. So we can put that back together and test that part, and there it is, that's the switch working. So I think all we have to do is glue that plastic piece back on. So with the help of a little bit of super glue and a little bit of patience, getting it back onto the shaft again, we've got it all back together. Still needs a final tighten up, but the switch is now operating, and that should just be fine. So let's power it up. So radio powers up. We don't have any sound because we've not got a microphone plugged in. So let's get a microphone plugged in and have a look. So we can hear something on sideband. Obviously it's an AM set. That must have been a local station. But it seems to be really, really deaf. We can hardly hear anything at all. Yes, seems to be really, really deaf. So, just having a play about with it. So we've got our signal generator on, and we should be getting an S9 on that. We're on 26965, minus 72 dB, so that should give us a nice S9, and it's not even moving the needle. So it is receiving. So I think first things what we'll do is we'll give it a full recap, because these caps are nearly 45-year-old, so by the magic of video editing, there's all the capacitors. Now, are any of these capacitors actually bad? Well, none of them read actual bad. There was a few that were out of specification. I think this was one of the worst ones. Should be a 220 mic and it's reading a 270 mic, but it would have still worked. So was it worthwhile recapping it? Who knows? But certainly there wasn't any faulty capacitors there. So we're back on the signal generator, minus 72 dB, and as we lower the dB, as soon as we get to about minus 80, minus 90, the signal just disappears and we can't hear it anymore. So I've got my Tiny SA outputting 10.7, and if we go near the 10.7 filter we can hear it, but we're not getting a good signal deflection. So we'll just show that. I would have expected that to be a lot higher up, but it just does show that the receive circuit is working somewhat, even though badly attenuated. So now I've got my Tiny SA outputting at 455, and if we go near the 455 circuit we can see that we're getting signal meter deflection, and when we find just the sweet spot we get a bigger deflection than what we had last time. So I'm wondering if the issue is around there somewhere. Because everything seems to be working, it just seems to be badly attenuated. Just do that again, but on the printed circuit board side. So there's the 10.7. It is working, but it's just not as good as what it should be. So where do we go from here? What do we do? Well, I think the fault is around this 10.7 455 area. So can we see anything that's going to stand out? Well, the 455 kHz filter covered in glue and wax always is a good sign. So we've took it out and we've replaced it, and there is glue on the bottom of it and there is wax all over it. And guess what? We now have a S9 for minus 72 dB. So it was that, dropped to minus 80, dropped to minus 90, minus 100. Beautiful. It is a lot more sensitive than what it was, and I think that was our problem. So we'll just do a transmit check. Everything's transmitting nicely. Nice 4 watts. So just doing a receive check. Yep, everything's fine. Transmitted from my other radio. And there we have it. This Midland 200M finally fixed. And now this can go back off to the back off to the customer. So yeah, nice surprise in this radio to find a nice Uniden board in there. I certainly wasn't expecting that. And all in all, for a 1980s AM set, it's very nice. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, join Facebook, join Patreon, buy me a coffee. Have a look at my website, microchips.net. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.